Hello everybody, it is Deborah with Kensington Cross Stitch. Today is Saturday, July 1st, 2023, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Since it is July 1st, I did want to say Happy Canada Day to all of our neighbors to the north, and in a couple of days, of course, it will be July 4th, so happy July 4th to all of the Americans in the audience. And then one also that is close to my heart, and maybe to some of you too, is it's the start of a new fiscal year. Woohoo! No, something I have to pay attention to anyway. But thank you very much for joining me and spending a little bit of time with me on to talk cross stitch today. I have had a number of new subscribers recently, so thank you very much to everybody who checked out the channel recently and has decided to stick around for the long haul. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I should say it actually takes us fairly close to about 1,500 subscribers. So hopefully that's a number we'll be hitting in the near future. And of course, there will be a giveaway. It's always a good opportunity for a giveaway. So look for that as we hit that number, hopefully sometime in not too far in the future. I was really trying really hard to not say in the near future, which is one of my phrases, and I did not stick that landing at all. Sometime soon, maybe we'll have that. But anyway, thank you for all for joining us. I do have a nice little variety of stitching content for you, so hopefully you will enjoy what we get to talk about today. I do have to admit that I have been cheating on my stitching just a little bit recently. I probably could have done more since we met last, but I've been distracted. I've been putting together some Lego kits. Legos these days are amazing. So I've been putting together some Lego kits. I've spent a lot of time thinking about fabric. I've decided to make another quilt. As somebody who decided several years ago quilting was not for me, I have now subsequently started 3 quilts and I'm about to start the 4th one. So yeah, that decision is going super well for me, but it's something I'm excited about. I might actually do just maybe a one-off kind of quilting bee episode sometime in the future. So if that's something that you're interested in, would like to see, let me know. I'm always happy to talk about my crafts, but let me know if that's something you would be interested in and we'll go from there. But it is, like I said, I'm not a big quilter, but I am trying to learn and there are a few projects that I would like to complete. So I'd be happy to show those off if they are of interest to other people. What else? Also, since the last time we met, we had the latest Connecticut Stitching Day, and we have actually given ourselves a name. We are the Connecticut Stitching Circle, and it was really fun to just get together last weekend, spend a couple of hours, both with people that we've had a couple of meetings with, and we always seem to get at least one new person every time. So it was just such a fun time to sit and stitch. We all work on pretty different projects, but we all enjoy each other's company. We enjoy talking about it, seeing each other's progress. Doesn't matter what you're stitching. If we are together, we're talking about a hobby that we all love, and it was a really wonderful opportunity to do that. We did narrowly escape naming ourselves the Rainy Day Stitchers because every time that we have met, we have had unpleasant weather. The very first time we had a delay because of some possible snow, and then it's been raining pretty heavily the last 2 times we've met. So we thought about it pretty seriously, and then we thought, maybe the reverse psychology will work. If we call ourselves the Rainy Day Stitchers, maybe that means it will never rain on our stitching day again. But we decided maybe not, just jinx ourselves just in case. So Connecticut Stitching Circle. So we will be putting out an announcement about that kind of as we continue on. And if you are in Connecticut or near enough to Connecticut that this is of interest, our next meeting will be August 12, 10 a.m. at the Wallingford Panera. So that's August 12. So if you're around, we would love to have you. It would be wonderful to get to meet you and to get to stitch with you for a little while. So I think that's kind of all of my little introductory stuff for this week. I will get into the stitching. So actually, I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll have a sip of coffee. I always feel like I say I have a cup of coffee. I'm not going to drink a cup of coffee in between my next comment. All right. So I have a fully finished object to start out with today. This is a project we saw, I think, 2 videos ago when I finished it, but I have now fully finished it. And this is Welcome by Hands On Design. And this is a piece that Kathy Haberman made as an exclusive for Welcome Stitchery in Blue Earth. I am doing super well today, but I made the promise. I'm like, I don't edit, I don't restart if I don't have to. We'll see how this goes. Kathy Hopperman designed this for Welcome Stitchery in Blue Earth, Minnesota for their first anniversary of their shop. Yes. About a year ago. And so they're coming up on their second anniversary. I believe that a new exclusive by a different designer will be announced fairly soon. But in the meantime, I have finished this one, which I think is just an absolutely lovely piece. You may remember from before, I only have stitched to the top half of the design. There's a very nice quote at the bottom about some friends that I left off, in part because I was trying to fit it into a certain space. I have a wreath on my front door, which is all yellow flowers, and this is going to hang in the center so that as people come into my house, they'll see this welcome sign, and I just thought the colors worked really well. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to finish it. I kind of just went to, I think I looked at Joann and Michael's to see what I could find and saw this one and I thought, it might fit. It might fit. And I would say it barely fits. It just fits. But I think that it's close enough that I really like it. This was an unstained piece of wood. It came all done already. And so I just sanded it and stained it. There is a little spot here down at the bottom that I think maybe some glue or something had gotten on it. And so it just would not take much of the stain, but who's going to notice? If I don't point it out, who's going to notice it? So, yeah, I think it works really well. And then I basically it was difficult to kind of figure out this exact curve. Probably somebody who's better at math could be able to do that, but I just kind of winged it. I used my French curve and kind of the outline of the piece itself, and I think it works great. If anybody is stitching this piece and is thinking about finishing, the one thing I would point out is a couple of things. It's not entirely symmetrical, so if you're thinking about your finishing, know that not everything that you would assume might line up in the way that you would assume so will. So for example, the L is not exactly in the center of the piece. The top of the W is not at the same level as the top of the E, which are the two outermost points there. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. I don't think that it detracts from it's a beautiful piece. It does not detract from the piece in any way, but if you are thinking about finishing, just note that there is some asymmetrical aspects to the piece that you might want to think about when you're doing your finishing. But I think it's great. I love it. For something, I've said this in the past, for something that had a lot of brown stitching, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think it's wonderful. So, and it just gives that also bright pop of color that will look really fun on the front door. So I will be putting that out once I'm done. I'll hopefully take a picture, post it on Instagram. I do have to confess something, which is my front door. I have the regular front door and the wreath, and then I have a screen door. I do not have a glass door, and so this will be partially exposed to the elements. So I know that over time it's going to fade and damage the piece. I'm going to just experiment and see how that goes. I mean, frankly, I could always restitch it. I could always do something else. But I just thought it was really fun, even if it's not something that I'm going to be able to use forever. I did consider some other finishes that might actually seal the piece, but I like it. We'll see. But sorry, it's gonna see some wind and rain. But anyway, so that was my fully finished object for this time. I do have a couple of FFOs to show you, a couple of whips, and a couple of other things. So the next one I want to show you is not actually a piece that I stitched myself, but it came to me and it's going to be displayed in my house, so it gets features in this video. So I've mentioned that I have a family member who is also a cross stitcher, and she lives on a boat, and so she has lots of time to cross stitch, but no room in which to actually keep or display most of the pieces that she stitches. And so I am one of the many people who gets to be the recipient of her pieces. So this is the latest that I have received. Gorgeous. So this is Sweet Treats by Country Cottage Needleworks. And it is 6, no, I take it back. I think when it was originally released, I think it may have been 6, but now you can buy the chart as one. I have only ever seen the chart as one, but and it's an earlier one, and so it does have quite a lot of buttons on it. And if I remember correctly, the pattern does not have alternative stitching. So if you don't buy the buttons, you will have some gaps in your stitching, but she did purchase that. And so they're all there. They're only very loosely tacked on. You can see I haven't ironed it. It was just shipped in the mail to me. So I will actually take off the buttons, iron it, and then restitch them on. She had just kind of tacked them on to keep them in place. But I will do that before I finish it. And I think what I will probably do is, I think I'm going to frame this one. I'm going to see if I can get maybe a white, maybe kind of a farmhouse wood frame for it. If I remember correctly, I think the measurements will fit very well in a 10 by 14 frame. I think the stitching is maybe 9 by 13, so that'll work pretty well in a 10 by 14, but I think it's really lovely. And I have to say, this is a piece that I have a pattern, I have this pattern, I had intended to stitch this myself, but it never quite rose to the top of the to-do list. So now I have it, and I didn't even have to do any work. It's pretty great. I think it's lovely. So I am so happy to have that, and it's going to fit really well into my guest room. So that is Sweet Treats by Country Cottage Needleworks. Right. The next piece that I have to show you is just a very tiny little finish. Thought I was going to be so clever to keep the sun out of there. All right, let's try that. There we go. So this is Liberty and Cherry Tree by Pricilla's Pocket. This was a piece that came fully kitted. It came with the fabric, which is a 35 count weeks, I think in the color of straw. And then it came with just a couple of lengths of Gloriana silk. I actually used I think slightly less than half of the silk that was provided. So if I wanted to, I could restitch this entire piece. And it's just a very quick and easy stitch. This is something that I was working on for Sew Me Sarah's Get Your Kit On sale, which is just celebrating the various kits that we have. And this is something that I was working on in my office when I'm physically in my office, a chance to get away from my desk. I actually just sort of turn around to a different part of my desk and not look at my email for half an hour. And I eat lunch, and I usually have about enough time to put in one length of thread on some stitching. So I had decided that I was going to start taking a project into work so I would have something to do during my lunch break, an excuse to not work for a little while during the day. And so this is something that came together very quickly. Obviously, it's just a very small piece. My needle minder is finding something inside. Really satisfying. And I've decided that stitching kind of monochromatic pieces is a really good thing to do at lunch too, because it's very quick. You know that you can put in a whole length. You don't have to worry about changing colors or anything like that. So I think that that's something I'm going to keep up for a little while with my lunchtime stitching. I really don't know how I'm going to finish this one yet. I am open to suggestions. So if you have one, let me know. Could be a little pillow. It could be, framed into something. We'll see. But I think that'll be a nice one to work on. So that is Liberty and Cherry Tree by Pricilla's Pocket. The next piece I have to show you is also part of a sal, and this is from Roz Clark Craft, who is doing the Flamingo Summer Sal. And here is my finish on that. Lots of flamingos. This is Hands On Design, and this is a piece called Petals and Plumes by Hands On Design. Did I just say it's Hands On Design? I think I just said, whatever. In case you didn't know, it's Hands On Design. So this pattern is found in this issue of American Patchwork and Quilting. This was from February 2023, so it's not on newsstands anymore, but if you have the Readly app, you can find a copy of it there. I know that is how Roz, I think is how Roz got her copy of it. So I will just show you this. And this is the second in a series that Kathy has done that are using English paper piecing hexes. So you'll notice that I had stitched each of those separately. And that's because I will be actually cutting them apart, restitching them as hexagons and then putting them back together. And you'll notice that there is some embroidery on there as well. You do sewing. So this is a project that's really fun for multi-crafters. It's got just a little bit of quilting, a little bit of embroidery, plus the cross stitch. And I really love that bright pink felt backing. So I have finished the stitching on this one. I'm gonna hold it back up here for you. The stitching is finished. And I was realizing that of course, I had originally planned to stitch or finish it exactly like this. This is how the first piece was finished as well. But I was realizing I might do something different. I am going to do the top as she suggests. So I will do all of the hexagons. I will do the embroidery. I will probably put it onto the felted wool. But I was thinking rather than turning it into a pillow, I might make it into maybe a pincushion of some kind. Oh, this is where I put it. So maybe something like her philanthropic pumpkin, maybe do something like that to cinch it together and make it a pincushion. I also might see if I can get just a very small kind of pie pan or dish that I can put it in and have it kind of be a rounded pincushion. I'm going to look around and see if I can find something like that, but I'm noodling around with how I might like to finish it. Like I said, I still want to do the hexagons as suggested, but maybe turning it into something besides the pillow itself. We'll see. So again, if you have any suggestions, let me know. And if you have not seen, I actually will show this later in the recent acquisition section, but Kathy has also released a new one of these that is sewing related. So if this is of interest to you, she has a new pattern that is very similar in style as well. It's readily available. It's in shops at this point, and I'll show it in just a little bit. So that is Petals and Plumes, and that was for the Flamingo Summer Salve. So if you are interested in stitching that, please feel free to jump on the tag. I know Roz would love to have you in that sal as well. You can tell that it's definitely like summer stitching style time, like bright colors, all kinds of things. All right, the next whip I have to show you is one of the pieces that I have been working on throughout this year. I had decided to do a temperature chart this year for the first time just to see. And so I am here. As you can see, we are, of course, we're at the end of June, so we are nearly halfway through. And this is Rainbow Temperature Supernova by Climbing Goat Designs. And I am doing the version that has the minimum and the maximum every day. And you'll notice that as we're going down, the very top, of course, is predominantly blue. The center is predominantly green, and now we're getting into the section that is predominantly pink. I've had several rows at this point, or several weeks at this point, in which pink, which is kind of my mid-warm temperature color range, has been used throughout the entire piece. So something I stitch on usually on Sundays, really good chance to just sit and relax and look back on the week a little bit, but I'm excited. I think this is just going to be it's going to be a beautiful piece when it's done. Not sure how I'm going to finish it, but I think I might frame it. I don't know. It's something that you could put up and have up all year long. So that is current update on Rainbow Temperature Supernova. The next piece I have is a piece that I showed you last time. If you remember in my last episode, I had done all of the starts. I hadn't made much progress on any of them, but I had just started a whole bunch of stuff. So I didn't work on every single one of them this last time because I've also decided that despite the fact that it was fun to start a bunch of stuff, I also like to focus on a fairly narrow grouping of projects. And so I did kind of consciously set a couple of them aside so that I could wrap up a few of these and move on. But I did make some, of course, since I finished my Liberty and Cherry Tree, I needed a new piece to work on in the office. And I decided that that one would be, let's see here. This is a Jardin Prive chart, and it's ABChat, ABChat, just a very simple monochromatic sampler cat. And so that is one that I had started. I had done just a couple of rows on it last time, and I decided to take that one into the office because, again, it's monochromatic, it's very easy stitching. I can just go in the period of time that I have available. So my progress at this point is we have a tail. So I had very consciously started at the bottom and then decided to work my way up the tail. So when you saw this last time, I think I had just gotten that very bottom done, and I've now finished all the way up the tail. And I think last time I accidentally said I was stitching this on 18 count Aida. It's 18 count linen, which is why it's so big. But I've consciously decided to do that rather than as a small piece because I've decided it's going to be a doorstop. I'm going to make it into a doorstop for this room. And so I want to have something that will be substantial enough that it will, stop a door. And so I'll probably finish it with walnut shells or rice or something like that. But it goes up probably another third. So it'll be about 8 inches tall once I am done with the stitching. And I am stitching this using 3 strands of Anchor Black. I decided in order to get the coverage, I would use the 3 strands. I think it's working out really well, and it's something that is a very simple stitch. Because it is monochromatic, I am kind of marking off my progress on the chart. I don't always have to do that, but I did notice, particularly on that tail, I was getting lost. So I have started marking off my progress, but that is, that's my new lunchtime stitch for the office. And then the last piece of stitching I have for you is also a piece that I have been working on throughout the year. You will, returning viewers will remember this piece very, very well. And this is the latest on Christmas Market by Twin Peak Primitives. And I have, since we met last, I've stitched the entirety of my June section, which is the Kinder Punch section stall. And so for those of you who are new and maybe haven't seen this piece before, this is a piece by Twin Peak Primitives, and it was originally designed as a long rectangle, kind of a clustered rectangle. I didn't get the chart out, sorry. And I just redesigned it so it's going to be a long wall runner. And so I am working on 1 section a month. I've divided it up so that I'll have this finished by in trying to have it fully finished and up on my wall for Christmas this next year. So I typically do 1 stall each month. Last month was the Christmas tree, and we have well past the halfway point, and I have now done the Kinder Punch stall. So I did want to take a moment and talk a little bit about the couple of changes that I've made for that piece, or for that section of the chart. The chart originally labeled that stall beer, and then there was another stall that I'm going to be stitching next to it that was labeled wine. Beer and wine, obviously readily available at Christmas markets amongst other places, but one of the things that is really special about Christmas markets is you get something called Glühwein. And Glühwein is basically a mulled wine that is very traditionally served, particularly at German Christmas markets. And every town has maybe their own recipe, and you go and you buy it. And it's part of the experience is to buy the Glühwein. And it's warm mulled wine. And every year, each Christmas market, each town typically has a souvenir mug that comes along with the purchase of Glühwein. In fact, exactly like this. So this is a mug that I got at one of the Christmas markets I visited in Germany a number of years ago. And so what you will do is you go and you purchase a mug of Glühwein, and you get the souvenir mug to go along with it, and you pay something called the Pfand. And the Pfand is basically like you're giving a little bit of money to pay for the mug itself. And if you don't want to keep it, you can just return the mug. It will get washed, it will get reused, and you get a couple of euro back for returning the mug. And that is really beneficial for, of course, if you live in town or you already have the number of mugs that you want, or maybe you don't want to collect the mug at all, you just want the drink. You can do that, you can return it and get part of your money back. Or if you want, you've already purchased your souvenir, you don't have to do anything else, and you have that as part of the experience. So That is called Glue Vine. And then there is a non-alcoholic version of it that is called Kinderpunsch. And so it's for kids, Kinderpunsch. But it's very similar. It's warm. And so what I decided to do back when I decided to start this is I said there was the beer and the wine stall, and I said they need to be Glühwein and Kinderpunsch. And so that was one of the changes that I have made to the chart. And it just is, like I said, it's just another little thing that's a reminder of that experience. And you'll notice that I have actually, I'm going to have another sip and then I'll show you. But what I tried to do was I actually tried to make my mug look just a tiny little bit like my souvenir mug. I did use a called for blue, and so it's not quite as dark, but I did put in what are essentially the little lights there. And so I thought that that was just a fun little personalization, and it will make a connection because of course the whole reason that I am stitching this is to remember that experience, and something that I'm actually hoping to experience again sometime in the future where I can collect more mugs. But I just really enjoyed that. And so next month I'll be working on the glue vine stand. And so that'll be what we see next time. So that is all of the stitching that I have accomplished over the last couple of weeks. Like I said, I was distracted by Legos and fabric and a few other things, but I still feel like that's a very reasonable little bit of stitching for me. So I hope that you enjoyed taking a look at that. I will also talk a little bit about some future plans. I'm going to ask your advice on a piece that I'm thinking about fully finishing. And then we've got the recent acquisition / haul part of the program as well. So that is where we're going to head next. So one of the things that has happened since my last regular Flosstube is I put out a kit parade, so showing off various mostly fully kitted, but kitted by others, pieces that I have in my collection, some of which I've been collecting for quite some time, some of which are newer. I didn't quite realize until I had laid them all out how many kits I have. It was sort of embarrassing and sort of wonderful at the same time, but Sue, who is a fellow New England stitcher, very kindly was like, "You've got a lot of kits. You should start stitching those." So Sue had suggested that I start unkit every month. That would, I hope, also mean that I finish one every month. I'm not sure if I will be able to do that, but I would be happy to get started on it because I think I should start putting together all of these kits that I have. So one of the pieces that I showed in that video was an older Little House Needleworks piece, and it's called Iced Tea. And it comes with all of the Belle Soie silk. So I'd already pulled together a piece of fabric, but this is a 32 count R&R creme brulee. And then I pulled out one of the kind of little postcards that I've turned into a thread card. This is a local kind of New Hampshire artist, and I've put my threads on that. So I've got everything ready to go, and I will be starting that probably, I actually might start that this weekend. We'll see. I have some plans for some good stitching time this weekend, so we'll see. But hopefully by the time we have another video, you'll have seen a good start on Iced Tea. So thank you, Sue, for just gently prodding me to actually start using my kits instead of just collecting them. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is I want to refinish a piece that I was never happy with the original finishing on. I've talked in the past that the last time I had stitched kind of pretty regularly was about 10, 12 years ago. And in that time, one of the pieces that I finished was this little one. And it was from an Etsy designer, and now I'm realizing I don't remember the name of the designer. I'll look it up. But this was a design that I purchased off of Etsy. It was at the height of the Avengers Marvel movie phenomenon. And so I wanted to stitch something like this, and I just thought it was really fun. So this is the original Avengers, of course. We've got Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, the Wasp, and Ant-Man. And what I did originally was I stitched this as the panel of a little tote bag that I found. And I very quickly did not like the finishing of it. The bag was, through no fault of the designer, smaller than I thought it was going to be. And then definitely through my fault, I don't know what I used, but I used the wrong interfacing, and it just adhered everything together and it made everything very stiff, and couldn't like actually pull the fabric back apart to make it work. And so it was just this like stiff, awkward bag that never got used. And I didn't want to throw it away. I kept thinking I should do something with it. I should be able to fix this in some way. And it just kept sitting there and moving with me and sitting there and moving with me. And I had been looking at it recently and I was like, I need to do something with this piece because it's just taking up space and it's making me irritated. So I cut it apart. And so I have the two original kind of bag panels. I got rid of everything else. And I mean, the nice thing is I already have rickrack. It's already got some matching fabric around it. It's just a question of how do I want to finish this in a new way. So the first thing I thought of is I could always just kind of trim things down and, and make myself a tiny little pillow. It will probably be slightly larger than pillows that I normally make, but I could just make it as a little pillow and put it somewhere. I could even make it as a long, narrow pillow, I suppose. I've certainly got plenty of piece for it. So I could definitely do that. I found I could mount it on something. So this is something I found, I don't know, Michael's, Joanne, something, a number of months ago. It was probably last summer. It was a 4th of July piece, and it had a phrase here and a design. And so I just painted over that to make it a blank background. So it would just fit inside of that. And I could essentially mount it there, and I could use washer and magnet, and it would be something that I could swap out for other pieces. It would, of course, leave me with a fair amount of space up at the top, and so I would want to come up with something else to fill some of that space. The colors at first glance seem to clash, but I was realizing that with Ant-Man and the Wasp, those are actually fairly close to the darker colors here. So I think it could work, but it's an idea. I'm not crazy about it, but it's an idea. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is, this was a piece that I purchased at Michael's, and I put a piece of styrofoam in here, and then I just pinned this piece and slid it inside, and it would also fit that, and I could just put it in there. So that's a possibility. That is like the world's easiest finish because there is nothing in here except a piece of styrofoam, some pins, and the edges of the fabric that are folded down. So I could do that. It would mean obviously taking this piece out. The styrofoam fits closely enough that it's not one that I can easily swap in and out for different seasons, for example, but I also have to, I've talked about this piece in the past. It was one that I, in the end, wasn't crazy about because I thought that I used the DMC alternative suggestions, and I think that they just clash too much. It doesn't work for me, and so every time I look at it, I'm like, that's not what I had hoped it was going to be. Probably other people look at it and they're like, that's fantastic. If someone would like this piece, I would be happy to send you this piece. I'm not going to send you this, but I would be happy to send you the finished stitching, and you can finish it in any way. If you would like it, put your name in the comments and I will get it sent off to you. I would be happy to do that. But it's one that just, I liked the idea of it. I wasn't happy with the final version. And so every time I see it, it just kind of makes me go, So I would be happy to sort of reuse this piece for something else. So that is what I am thinking about. I really would like to get this refinished so I actually can have it out and enjoy it. It just makes me laugh. But I am deciding how to do that. So pillow, mounted patriotic-ish piece, fence box. Any of those are options. Or if you have another suggestion, like I said, I would be happy to hear it. So that is something I am thinking about, hoping to have finished fairly soon, but deciding what it is exactly that I would like to do with it. That is that. And then I think with that, we actually just have the final portion of the video, which is the recent acquisitions portion. If that is not your thing, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure, and hope to see you next time. And then if you do enjoy haul, I do have a few things to show you. Until last night, I had a very, very modest amount of haul, and I thought, you will not recognize me because there was barely anything to show. And then my mail came yesterday, so there went that one. There were a couple of patterns that I wanted, and of course, no chart can travel alone, so I had to buy more patterns. So now I just have a bunch of things. So anyway, let me pull these out here. And so the first thing to show is just a little piece of fabric. I did keep one of my fabric and one of my Floss of the Month clubs, and this is through Stitch New England, and this is the Atomic Ranch Fabrics Club of the Month, and this is a 32 count Ocean Sand, and it's a fat quarter. It's a really nice ocean green, I would say. Really lovely. I am going to enjoy stitching on that one. So that one did arrive. I also purchased a Christiana Dahlbeck book from one of the stash unloading sites. It was one that I have seen before, but I don't think I've seen it on the French needle, which is the kind of the easiest way to get her patterns in the US. So I did, somebody posted a copy of it, and so I decided to grab it. So this is Christiana Dahlbeck, and there are a number of really lovely, typically, or most consistently, Christmas and fall images in here. Some of them are animals here. There's a couple of different pieces with those deer. There are a number of angel motifs in a variety of ways. I'm not going to show you everything, but I will, as usual, show you a couple of my favorites. So there is a couple of charts that are all about Christmas cookies. I really like this one here, which has the variety of cookies. So that is something that I will probably be stitching. And then I also really liked these. And again, various small Christmas motifs that you can stitch in a variety of ways. So those were two that I really liked out of this. And as a reminder, there is the Christiana Dahlbeck Sal going on. It is Dahlbeck 2023 Sal. And this is any Christiana Dahlbeck pattern, doesn't matter what the subject is, it doesn't matter how big or small, but if you would like to join Patty and I in stitching on that, please feel free to do so. We would love to have you and join in on the hashtag. So, Christiana Dahlbeck. And then I also purchased one other chart from a stash unloading site, and this is Cinders. And the original artist was P. Buckley Moss. I had purchased one of their pieces maybe a couple of months ago at this point. It's a winter scene of a skater. And I had seen this cat one pop up. And of course, you know me, I needed the cat one. So another copy popped up and nobody had claimed it yet. So it came to me. It was very carefully labeled, "Do not bend," all over the package. And my postman folded it up and stuck it in my mailbox, but it's mostly getting back to where it is. The chart's still fine. So that is Cinders by P. Buckley Moss. I know that you can find I see occasionally their pieces on eBay and some things like that if you're interested. And then I also saw another chart on Stash Unloading. I kind of stopped looking at those for a while because they were dangerous, but I happened to see this one, and it was one I had never seen before. I didn't grab it from that site. I was too slow, but I was able to find it from another shop. And so this is Libby by Mosey and Me. I've said it before, I'm not a huge patriotic stitcher, but I thought that one was just really nice. I loved the design and her little cheeks, her red little cheeks. So I was able to find a copy of this one, and I am planning to stitch, I don't know when I'll stitch that. That is solid stitching, but really lovely. I may kind of change the skin color, something like that, to make it a little more representative, but I think that one is really fun. And Mosey and Me is a designer that I had not heard of before. So since I was there, I had to look and see what else they had. And they have several others that I really like. So I got Speckled Bellied Bird. I mean, look at that guy. He is just hanging out and giving you the side eye. Like, that bird is seriously questioning your judgment. I love it. That one I thought was too fun. Too fun to not pass up. Too fun to pass up. And then the last one that I got was this little one, and it's called Tug of War. And it's a little cat and a dog kind of pulling a little heart between them. It was cute. And I think it would probably be pretty easy to change the dog face into another cat. Because I feel like, I mean, it actually is fairly similar to my two little guys who are both bonded and bros. And also we have Thunderdome on a regular basis in our house too. So I just thought that was fun. So that is Mosey and Me. So older designer, I don't know if I don't think that they are still publishing, but one I had not seen before and really enjoyed. And then the other set of patterns that I bought were, let me start with the reason that I bought them, which is Salty Seagulls by Helen D. And this is East Coast Crafter. Helen has released this, and how could you not want those seagulls? I mean, look at those guys with their little hats and their little, like, sailor neckerchiefs and patterns in their little wings. So the pattern comes with this large one, as well as 3 kind of ornament-sized pieces. This is exclusively available through Cobweb Corner. You can get it as a PDF, or you can get the print copy. I like print copies, so I ordered it. And then, like I said, no chart can travel alone, so I had to buy a couple other ones. But this one is super cute. Super cute. The other pieces that I purchased from there, I started with this Mill Hill one, and it's Berries and Bugs, which is a bunch of berries and bugs. And I had never seen a Mill Hill just chart. It does use their beads, but I had never seen just a chart. But probably because I'm just not familiar, but I really like all of those little strawberry pieces, so I will stitch one of those. And then Hands-On Design has released a couple of their new pieces, so I needed to grab some of those. So the first one is Strawberry, which is part of the Berry Basket, which is intended to be a new series, and it's a strawberry made up of strawberries, so that one was really fun. And then this is very similar to Petals and Plumes. And this one is called A Vintage Stitch. And I believe that this 2 Hexy is the series name at this point. The first 2 pieces, one was released as an exclusive for the Silver Needle and a club that they have. And Petals and Plumes was released in that magazine. So this is the first one that is broadly available. I assume the others will come out eventually. But this one is all sewing themed. So you've got tomatoes, you've got scissors, all kinds of things. This was finished in the traditional little pillow. And if you don't want to, you can make just one big hexie, which I thought was really fun too. So I enjoy these. Like I said, I'm kind of a multi-crafter, so it appeals to me in a variety of ways. So I picked that one up while I had the opportunity. And then the other piece that I picked up from Cobweb Corner is Tiny Modernist, the Bee Queen. Oh my God. This is absolutely stunning. Gorgeous piece. It's got mushrooms and bees and this beautiful woman in a beautiful dress. Oh my gosh. I love it. I could not buy that. So today's the day of double negatives. Anyway, that is the Bee Queen by Tiny Modernist. And then I bought 3 other patterns just to wrap us up today. I had mentioned earlier Roz Clark, who is organizing the Flamingo Summer Sal. She is also a designer and released a new pattern this week, which I hit buy on pretty much the moment that I saw that it was out there. So I bought, this is her newest pattern, and it is I Prefer Reading. People say that life is the thing, but I prefer reading. I forget who the quote is. Some gentleman from the 1800s. And I really like this one because it's got a stack of books, a row of books, and then a single book. So various different profiles. And then it's kind of Quaker inspired. You could stitch it in any colorway that you want. It calls for 3 different colors, just of varying shades, but you could just stitch it in, like I said, any color that you want. And these are just a couple of her other patterns down on the bottom. I really like her. I really like what she does is she doesn't specify a color floss for you to use. So all of the charts that I've gotten so far have said you need 3 colors of these varying shades, or X number of shades to use, but she recommends you use scraps for a lot of them, just kind of stitching from stash. And so I really like that approach. It says, here's generally what you're looking for, but it's up to you and you get to pick and make it your own. The charts are fully in color. There is a large, both of them are, there are 2 versions, black and white and color, very large, very easy to read. Everything is very cleared, so I really like it. Roz, this is a great pattern, and I'm looking forward to stitching it. That one's fun. And then since I was there, of course, I couldn't not buy anything. I had intended to buy this chart when it was released not all that long ago, but I forgot. But used the opportunity. So I picked up Button Baubles. Roz has done a recent series that is all about kind of Christmas stitching related things. And so there's the button baubles. And so those little ornaments are actually buttons. This one is spools that are made up, or a Christmas tree made up of spools. And then this one is a star that is made up of scissors. So all 3 of those are available as separate patterns. And again, just kind of using suggested colors. So that one I had to pick up. And then the last one that I picked up from her is this Christmas bundle. And there are several of these that are available as separate pieces. You can buy the Peace on Earth, Joy to the World, and I believe the Small Town. I really love the lettering in those. And if you bought the bundle, part of the reason I did it is because you can also get this piece that says Peace and Joy with that lettering. So those are a couple that I'll probably work on later in the year. And I know Christmas in July is starting. We're in July, so hey, do all of the Christmas stitching. But I have gotten through all of the haul. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed taking a look at the stitching. I hope that you got inspired and possibly tempted by some of the things that I have recently purchased, and that you were looking forward to doing some stitching in the near future, that you got some stitching done while you were watching this video. Like I said, I will probably be starting on the iced tea piece in the near future. I do, of course, have Tuesday off, which will be wonderful. My plans are I will probably have a fairly quiet day that will be a movie marathon. I have 3 movies that are kind of patriotic, that I am planning to have a movie marathon on. So we're going to watch Dave, we're going to watch 1776, and we're going to watch All the President's Men. And I feel like that trifecta of movies kind of gives you the gamut of American holidays. So Dave, of course, is like unmitigated optimism and a reminder that people can do good in the world. And that is just delightful and heartwarming. And then on the other side, you've got All the President's Men, which is about plucky reporters uncovering corruption and abuse of power by President Nixon, opposite end of the spectrum. And then in the middle, you've got 1776, which is like campy and clever and funny and history in a very easy little piece of medicine. But it also is surprisingly upfront about some of the compromises that we made at the founding of our nation. And so it's a good reminder of that. And so I feel like between the 3 of them, you get a nice little gamut of the good and the bad and everything in between of our country. So I don't know. I'm not like consciously deciding that this is what I'm going to do on my 4th of July. I just really love all of those movies for a variety of reasons. And I feel like it's just a good chance to sit and watch them and to do a bunch of stitching. So that's my plan for 4th of July. I'm not sure if there'll be fireworks or not in any of that, but I hope that you all are enjoying your summer. For those of you who are in the part of the world where it is summer. And I hope that you will get a lot of stitching in, have a wonderful time, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everybody. Bye.